own mapping in Tableau. We talked about these globe icons that we see in front of every single column on the left side in our dimensions. And this globe icon means that Tableau recognized that it is a geographical field. To give you some ideas, postal code at this moment is the most detailed level by using default data to plot your data. So it's not because you add your street name in Tableau that it will immediately recognize your street and be able to plot your street. There are ways of doing this, and this is by working with what's called spatial files. If you create specific spatial files, and spatial files are, for example, outputs of I'm looking for the application that Google has itself. I'll come up with. So specific tools have been created that output these spatial files. Then it's quite easy to map data instantly on a map. Otherwise, postal code is, let's say, the most detailed level you can use. Let's start by using the most simple way of creating visualization, and that's double-clicking on country region. At this point, I'm only using Superstore that contains data from the United States. It could be that it looks a bit different in your case if you connect it to the European sample Superstore data. It doesn't really matter, the concepts are similar. As you can see, it now plots this one element on top of what's called, it's basically just a background image, because what is a map? The most basic element of a map, what is it? To make that clear, let's first double click on state. So now we have some more dots. These dots are, of course, all located, in my case, within the United States. Now let's think of what a map exactly is. If I go to my menu all the way in the top, you'll see there's a menu, a separate menu called map. By hovering over background map or background images, you'll see, give me a second, background map, none. If you click on background map none, you'll see that basically a map is nothing more than a scatter plot that plots latitude and longitude. So if I enable my map again, map normal, let's say, it looks a bit different. Where does this latitude and longitude come from? So we've seen that it's basically nothing more than a simple scatter plot, and Tableau puts a sort of image behind it. And we see here on the left side in our measures that latitude and longitude is looking a bit different than my other measures. That's indeed because it's been generated by Tableau itself. It is not included in my underlying Excel file. So because Tableau recognized my different geographic fields, it was able to automatically create the correct latitude and longitude to plot it on the right location in the world. That's very important for you to know. Of course, there's one step further that we could go, and that's by adding our own latitude and longitudes. If you want to plot some custom data on a map, there's lots of information you can find on that one, also on the help pages of Tableau itself. Let's start from scratch to see what we have done by now. So we added country and state. But what happens if I just start by using city? If I double click on city, are these all of the cities there are in the US? That's quite unlikely. There's a small issue that I'm facing here. And you'll see it it's very small in the bottom right of my visualization. It says we have 353 unknown elements. That's weird. If we click on that one, you'll see there are 3 possibilities to fix this. First of all, we can edit our locations. Let's take a look at what's possible here by clicking on edit locations. How did I get this screen? I'll repeat it once more. Purely by using city. On the bottom right, you'll see a small element popping up that's called 353 unknown elements. By clicking on that little element, you'll see this option box appearing. The top option, edit locations, let's take a look. I can edit locations and okay, Tableau says they're ambiguous. So it means there are multiple ones of them. Aha, I can enter a latitude and longitude myself. If you're brave enough to enter 353 latitude and longitudes manually, so correct. Someone is pointing out in the Q&A that if they double-click city, the default map is Belgium, apparently. That's because you're using the European Superstore, but the essence of the problem is the exact same. So it doesn't really know where to plot things. So that's an issue. And if I'm not mistaken, the plotted element you see right now is Waterloo. So either case, whatever map you're seeing, the issue is the same. Tableau doesn't know where these cities are located around the world because, let's face it, take a look at Waterloo or take a look at Amsterdam. These are located in multiple countries around the world. So Tableau needs to know, where do I need to look? So let's cancel and see how we can solve this. Why didn't we have this issue when we went from country to state? Let's start from scratch once more to see how we can solve our current situation. So we're not going to start with city because that's a bit too confusing for Tableau, it seems. We're going to start by using country. Once I've double-clicked country, I'm going to double-click state. From the moment I've done that, I'm going to double-click city. And now Tableau is not showing me this error message or this little icon in the bottom right. That is because at this point, I have 3 elements contained in my marks card. Country region, there are only 144 countries in the world, if not mistaken, so these are quite easy to plot on the map. Once we have our countries available, Tableau can use the country to look up all of the states. Once we have our country and state level, it's way easier for him to pin these specific cities. So that means that if we work in levels that are logical for Tableau, it's quite easy to plot our data on a map. But we basically learned a way of making it even more easy than this. If I clear it one last time, I don't want to, by accident, make the mistake of adding the wrong element. So let's make it easy for us by creating our own hierarchy once more. We create our previous hierarchy by dragging one of our elements. I'm just going to use state and drop it on top of country on the left side in my dimensions pane and drop it in there. Geo, I'm going to call it. The name does not really matter. And I can see, okay, country goes to state. I'm going to drag my city in there as well to go from country to state to city. This is a logical hierarchy. That's good. So what happens now if I double click state instantly, Tableau makes it super easy for me by taking along these all these different elements that are contained in a hierarchy. So the easiest for you to remember would be, if you can create a hierarchy with geographical fields, always try to do so. Good. Let's take a look at what our different possibilities are. And first of all, I'm going to drill up to the state level. I can now do this by either dragging away city or by using this minus sign in front of state. There are 2 types of maps. If I go to the show me option in the top right, you'll see the 2 types of maps indicated. You have a symbol map. I think a dotted map would have been a better way, but it's called the symbol map, but also the filled map. As you can see, now the state is of course entirely filled until every single border has been reached. From the moment we work with filled maps, it's more logical to also work with color. Let's take a look at our profit. If we now drag profit to the color, it will make sure that it has been indicated just like we've seen with our different bars. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to use yet on my dashboard. So I'm going to duplicate this one and make it a bit different by using a symbol map. First of all, I'm going to rename my underlying sheet, which is called filled map dash profit per state. Duplicating sheets is basically one of the best ways if you're not really sure what the impact is going to be of all of your changes. So it's always a good advice to duplicate sheets if you want to make some drastic changes. Right-click your sheet name and choose for duplicate. It's interesting to see that for every single visualization, you will always have the option to duplicate it as a cross-tab as well. That's very useful in the future if you're working with calculated fields. If you create your own calculations, it's always easy to double check it when it's just a simple table. You no longer will have to build a table yourself because you can right-click and select duplicate as cross-tab and Tableau will do it for you. In this case, we're just going to choose duplicate to get the exact same map a second time. I'm no longer going to choose for a filled map, so I'm going to go to my show me option in the top right and switch to a filled map again. A symbol map, my apologies. A symbol map, so I have these dots again. Since we're now using these dots, someone has a question. Okay. Someone has, sorry, recap. So from the moment that we use symbols or these dots, we can still work with color, but we also have to play a bit with the size. And I see profit, it's not really it does not have a good use in size. So let's see what sales gives us. So I want to use sales as size. I'm going to drag sales to my size mark again. That looks a bit better. So I drag sales to the size. Make it a bit bigger. Okay. But I also want to use sales on color. So let's drag sales to color again.
The range is quite big.